All right.
Hello and welcome back to Charlotte Street Computers Training. My name's Tom. Today we are talking about macOS Basics, the operating system, the OS that your computer runs is called macOS. You may or may not have the latest version like I'm using here. So let's go up. First thing we're going to do is see what version of the operating system that you have. And I'm going to come up to the upper left-hand corner and I'm going to click the little Apple. It's called the Apple menu. The very first item in the Apple menu is called About This Mac. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. You can see that mine says that I'm running macOS Big Sur version 11.0.1. This just came out, was released a few days ago. As the time goes by, if you're watching this, I'm recording this in November of 2020, and macOS Big Sur just came out less than a week ago. So it's version 11. They've been calling their operating systems macOS 10 for 2 decades. And Big Sur is breaking away from some of the designs that they've had for the last 20 years. The dock is no longer attached to the bottom. It's kind of floating. A few other things, more rounded edges, looks a little bit more like an iPad or an iPhone. Anyway, so they've changed from macOS 10 to macOS 11, and this is the very first version of macOS 11, so it's 11.0. macOS 10 was up to 10.15. If you're on Catalina, that's 10.15. If you're on Mojave, that was 10.14. So we've moved up to 11.0. By the way, if you are on Catalina or Mojave, you might want to go back and watch the macOS Basics for Catalina instead of this one. In this little box, it's going to tell you a little bit about your computer, which one you have. Mine says I have a Mac Mini from late 2014. Now that doesn't mean it was made in late 2014. It means this is the design that came out in 2014. So anyway, I've got the late 2014 Mac Mini. It tells me how fast the processor is, how much RAM I have. And one of the more important things in this box is the serial number. So if you've recently bought your Mac, you have, from the date of purchase, 90 days of free phone support from Apple. If you bought AppleCare Plus, you have a full 3 years of that phone support. And let me go ahead and just pull that number up on the screen. So when you call the real Apple number, and there are some fake numbers out there, you're going to be asked by an automated system what the serial number of your computer is. And this is it right here. Now it's also written on the bottom of your Mac in very fine print. So I think this is a much easier place to find it. So this is the serial number. You're going to be able to give that to the automated system and then maybe even your representative that helps you. So I just wanted to show you that very quickly. Also in this box, I'm in the overview tab at the very top, but there's a few other tabs up here and I want to click the storage one. So this tab is going to show you, first of all, the total space of your Mac, which in my case is about 500 gigabytes. And then it's also going to show you a little breakdown of what's taking up space on your Mac and how much available space you have. So if you're worried that you've filled up your Mac, or hopefully not getting a report from that pops up in the upper right that tells you your disk is almost full, but you can come in here and see exactly what your status is. And you can perhaps delete some things to free up a little bit of space. But this computer has plenty of free space. I don't have anything to worry about. And also you'll see in here I've got another drive that is called Time Machine. Now we'll talk about Time Machine towards the end of the class, but if you have not upgraded to Big Sur, you might want to look into backing up your Mac before you take the plunge, because it is a major upgrade. There could be things that go wrong. And so you just want to make sure that all of your important things are stored in an extra place in case the installation of Big Sur goes wrong. And there are other reasons why you're going to want to back up. So hopefully we'll get back to that a little bit later. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this box. You've probably figured out by now that clicking the red ball closes windows. I'll do that in just a moment. The yellow ball minimizes a window into the dock area. This colorful strip across the bottom is called the dock. And minimized items are going to go into the very far right, just to the left of the trash. So I'm going to go ahead and click that to bring it back. This particular window is not able to be expanded. Most windows can take over the screen, but this particular one is a set size, so the third ball, the green one, is grayed out. And we'll hopefully take a look at that a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one. And before we take a look at anything else, perhaps in the Apple menu, we will come and look at some of these other things. I want to move over to the right of the Apple. And mine currently says Text Edit. And the reason it does is because I just pulled up that document. I don't even have anything on the screen, but I just pulled up that document that had the Apple 800 number on it. And that was, I had created that using a little program called Text Edit. So that's why that is still visible up there. But this program, this menu changes depending on what you're doing. So for instance, if I come down to my Contacts app and I click it, then that menu next to the Apple is going to change to the word Contacts. And I'm going to open another app without closing Contacts. So we're going to just leave this in its place. And I'm going to come down and I'm going to click, let's say I click Reminders. So Reminders has opened up next to Contacts. I can actually see both apps at the same time. But as I click between the different windows, this menu is changing depending on which one I'm in. So when I'm in Contacts, it says Contacts here. Everything from the Contacts part all the way over to Help is Contacts related. When I click on the Reminders app, it says Reminders here, and everything between Reminders and Help is Reminders related. So it's very important what it says here because all of the menus are going to change depending on what it says. Now, some apps, when you click the red ball, and I want to point out one other thing. Down here in my dock area, I'm hoping that you can see the little dots that are underneath my Text Edit app, my Contacts app, and my Reminders app. And also on the far left over here, there's a little dot underneath the Finder app. This is letting me know that these apps are running. Now, I don't necessarily see Text Edit running, but the little dot is letting me know that it is. Some apps, when you click the red ball, it actually quits the app. So I just clicked the red ball of Reminders and I no longer have a dot underneath the Reminders app. It is closed and quit. Same thing is true with Contacts. I'm going to go ahead and click the red ball and the little dot went away from underneath the Contacts icon. Now, I do not have a Text Edit window on the screen, but I have a dot underneath Text Edit. What that means is that this app supports more than one window. And I'm going to use Safari as another example of this. So Safari is your web browser. We actually have a whole class on using and taking advantage of Safari. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And it's bringing us up to Charlotte Street Computers. I'm going to go up and click File New Window. And apparently I've got new Windows set to do that. So we'll go ahead and change to another topic. So Safari is one of the apps that supports multiple windows, and the reason clicking the red ball doesn't quit the program is what if you just wanted to close this window without closing this window over here. So if clicking the red ball quits Safari, it would be closing both windows. So they they don't do that. They just close the window that you choose. And so even when you click the last open window for that particular app, it leaves that app running up here next to the apple. Now you might click on a different app and that menu will change, but that dot is going to stay underneath the icon of the app until you actually click its menu and then quit the app at the bottom of the menu. You'll also notice that to the right of where it says quit Safari, there's a little kind of a cryptic symbol. The little cloverleaf symbol is a shortcut that you have on your keyboard. And I want to see if I can bring up a keyboard for you to see on the screen. Let's see here. Here's a keyboard, and you'll notice that there's a command key on the left and the right of the spacebar. So command on the left, command on the right, they have that little cloverleaf symbol. So back here on our screen, it says command Q for quit. So what that means is if I was to put my finger on command and hit the letter Q while I'm holding down the command key, command Q, it's going to do the same thing as it would if I clicked on the quit Safari command in the menu. So I'm going to I'll go ahead and do it this way. I'm going to click quit Safari. You'll see the dot goes away from the icon underneath Safari. On this text edit, I'm actually going to click my mouse. So while I'm showing you my trackpad, I could also be holding the mouse, but I'm going to come over with the trackpad and put my mouse on top of the text edit icon, and I'm going to press and hold down on the icon. And so I'm holding with my finger, and you'll see that a menu pops up, but the very first item in the menu is quit. So rather than come up to the apple, I can just click and hold on the icon and click the quit command there. All right, so I said all that because I want to talk about the Finder. The Finder is the icon in the far left of your dock, and it always has a dot underneath it. And the reason for that is the Finder cannot be quit. So if your menu here next to the apple does not show Finder, you can just click somewhere on the desktop. Let me just let's open TextEdit again. You can see that it says TextEdit here. If I click anywhere in this Big Sur desktop, then it changes from TextEdit to the Finder. So I'm going to go ahead and quit TextEdit again. But the Finder does not have a quit command. If you click and hold on it in the dock, there is no quit command at the bottom. This program has to be running all the time for your Mac to work. So as you might imagine from its title, its purpose is to help you find things. So the Finder is where you manage your documents. All the things that are your personal items are managed inside the Finder. Now, this desktop, this whole pretty picture, whatever picture you have chosen for your background, this desktop is a part of the Finder. So they call this the desktop. This is Johnny Appleseed's computer. He is storing some things on his desktop, so those things are visible here. But this is only one location out of many possible locations that are stored in the Finder. And if you want to see the rest of those possibilities, you actually click on its icon here in the dock. Or you can come up and click File, New Finder Window. So clicking this icon basically opens a new Finder window automatically. And I've got a fairly small window here that is a little bit it's almost distractingly small. So I'm going to stretch it out a little bit. Any window or almost any window that you have on your Mac can be stretched. You can see I'm moving my mouse to the bottom or to a corner of a window, and it's changing. If you have the up and down arrow, you can stretch up and down. If you have the left-right arrow, you can stretch left or right. If you grab a corner, you can kind of stretch in both sections simultaneously. So I'm going to stretch mine out a little bit. And you'll see that I have a bar on the side that has a favorite section. Mine has an iCloud section. Yours, it's slightly possible yours will not have an iCloud section if you're not signed into iCloud. We have a whole class on that. And then I've got some other location areas that you may or may not have these things here. And then I've got some tags. And then over in this section, this is a change in the way things look from Catalina. In Catalina, there were 4 buttons here on the upper left. They've moved those 4 buttons into the middle of the screen over here. And I'm going to go ahead and click one. These 4 buttons are 4 different ways of looking at the same items. So the very first button is called Icon View. So actually, as I hover over any one of these buttons, it says View Items, show items as icons in a list, in columns, or in a gallery. So that's what these 4 buttons are. There's icons, list, columns, and gallery view. So you will, as you experiment with these different things, you'll find ones that you actually prefer. I'm actually going to switch to light mode for a second. I'm in dark mode on my computer, as you have probably noticed. And I'm going to switch over to light mode. Maybe we can see some of these things a little better. I'm not sure. So here we are in light mode. There's the 4 buttons. Icon view, which is a fairly large icon. A list view, which is going to be a very small icon, but in a list that's probably in alphabetical order at first, but it actually has different headers. It has got a today section. I've got a date modified. Actually, if I click today, I'm not sure what's happening there. I would have thought that this was the organizing by name, but it doesn't seem to be doing that. Date modified, the size, the kind of document, and the date added. So I could click on these little headers, but there's also a 5th button here. Its actual title is the group button. How do you want to group these items? And mine is, the reason actually mine is set for today is it's sorted by the date added. But most people are, I think by default, it's probably going to be sorted in a list view by the title. But you can also choose these other things. Maybe you want to sort by the date you've worked on them. So the date modified. So you can sort your things by the date you've modified them. You can sort by the kind. So at the top I've got folders, and then I've got documents, and then images. And this will, whatever you do in the group section, this will apply also to the icon view. I really like the icon view. The icons are going to be big enough to where you can almost actually see what the document is. So again, I can organize these things by the name, by the date I created them. Maybe I'm looking to get rid of some big things. I could organize by the size, and the largest things will be at the top. So this 5th button is a very important one. You can decide which one of these buttons you want to use depending on what you're actually doing. So I'm a pretty big fan of the column view because I like to organize my things in folders. And let's go ahead and change this back to the name. And I want to stretch out this column a little bit so I can see all the names fully. So I'm going to put my mouse arrow on top of the little widget at the bottom of this column, and I'm going to stretch to the right. I'm pressing down and sliding. Maybe I should, let's actually do this with a view where you can see. All right, so I'm grabbing that little widget and sliding my my finger at the same time. Okay, so if you like putting things in folders, this column view allows you to click on a folder and see the contents of that folder without losing the first column. And then when you actually click on an item, it will show you a very nice big preview of the item in the farthest most column there. So you can drill down into the contents of folders, seeing exactly where they are, and then you'll see a nice little preview in the last column when you actually click something besides a folder. So anyway, this can be a very nice view for quickly going through different folders. The gallery view is an excellent view for going through folders that have images in them. It will give you a nice, really large preview of the different items. Your images will be small thumbnails at the bottom. And then you'll also get some key information on the right. So if you've taken this picture with a certain camera, of course this is a painting, it doesn't show what camera took this, but as you click around it might show you which camera took this. But anyway, very large preview in the middle. So you can decide which view you like the best. I have also turned on a feature called the status bar at the very bottom. Normally you do not have any information at the bottom of a window, a Finder window. I'm going to click the View menu and click Show the Status Bar. That actually tells me how many items I've got, and then over on the far right, if you're in Icon View, it'll actually let you adjust the size of the icons. Go ahead and resort them by the name. So again, I really like this view for just quickly finding items. One last thing I want to show you is that all the different views, whether you're in the icon view or the list view or the column view, or to a lesser extent the gallery view, but all these different views, if you tap the spacebar when you have a file selected, it will go into what Apple calls Quicklook, and then one more tap of the spacebar makes it go out of Quicklook. So you don't actually have to wait. You don't have to wait for a program to open. You just get a quick look of the document, tap it again, and again this works in all the different modes. So if I go to list view, tap the spacebar, there it is. So if you're looking for a specific item, it makes it easy to just go through the different items without waiting for a program to open. So very helpful. This works in other views as well, like if you were in an email program and you were looking to attach a file. Let me just open my email for a second and I'll click on a new email. Click the little attach button and then just tap the space bar. It's like, oh, that's definitely not the thing that I wanted to attach. So just a quick tap of the space bar and then another tap will make it go away. So, quick look. So anyway, that's a synopsis of finding things in the Finder. And again, so I've got over here on the left, I've got a shortcut for my desktop, a shortcut for my downloads. These are things I've downloaded from the internet. I've actually got down here in the iCloud area, because I'm using iCloud Drive, I've got another shortcut to my documents, another way of getting to my my desktop. But anyway, you can actually customize what goes here in this favorites area. We'll look at that in a minute. But what I want to do for demo purposes today is I want to clean up my desktop. So Johnny Appleseed has got some things stored on his desktop. It doesn't look very bad because he's actually using a feature that was introduced a couple of years ago with macOS 10.14 Mojave. And you'll find this feature under the View menu also, and it's called Stacks. So you can see the little check mark in his menu, in his View menu next to Use Stacks. If I click that, I just actually, now I'm not using stacks. So you can see it's scattered some things, but clicking use stacks puts them back in order of, you've got an option of how you sort these things. I'm sorting them by the kind. You could also sort them by the date that you've worked on them. You could sort them by some other things here as well, but I'm going to switch it back to the kind. So it's giving me documents and images. When I click on images, it'll show me the things that are inside that stack. If I click on presentations, it'll show me the things in that stack, etc. So anyway, let's take that off for a minute. I'm going to turn off stacks. And what I want to do is clean this up. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to make a folder. And with the Mac, you could, when you're using the Finder, you could come up to the File menu and you could click New Folder. And that's a totally legitimate way to make a new folder. It just showed up in the first available spot. I want to show you another way. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this one away. I'm going to drag this to the trash. I'm going to click and hold very gently on the pad and drag this into the trash. Now, if you have a trackpad, this is called the Magic Trackpad by Apple, and you also, if you have a laptop, you also have a trackpad built into your laptop called the Magic Trackpad. It has a feature that I find very difficult to use. It's called Force Touch. And so one of the first things I do, I'm going to come up to the Apple menu and click System Preferences. And we're going to go in to the trackpad settings. And when you buy a new Mac, there's a little checkbox next to Force Click and Haptic Feedback. What this does is it adds a second level of clicking to your trackpad. And which means there's going to be a shallow click and a deeper click. And as I'm pressing on my pad, I'm feeling 2 clicks. I find it very difficult to drag and drop with this box checked. So I'm going to go ahead and leave mine unchecked. All right, so go ahead and close this window. And now I can press and hold on the trackpad and drag down to the trash. And I'm actually, because I kind of ran out of space, I actually had to put another finger up there. So what I've learned to do over the years is, let's let go of it. Let's undo that. Instead of dragging this all the way to the trash, I'm going to do a 2-finger click on top of this folder, and I'm going to click Move to Trash. So that's another way of moving to the trash. I won't have to do any dragging there. You can also hit Command Delete on the keyboard. Remember how I hit Command Q to quit? You can hit Command Delete on the keyboard at the same time, and the item will go to the trash. All right. So anyway, I want to make a new folder in this spot, or actually maybe I want to actually do it in the middle of the screen. So when I did File New Folder, it just automatically picked a spot for me. I want to make a new folder right here. So in order to do that, what I need to do is do what a Windows user might call a right click. On my mouse, there are 2 distinct sides to the mouse. There's a left side and a right side. Now, when you buy an iMac from Apple, or when you buy this mouse, the entire surface is treated as a left click. But we can go into a setting and divide this into a left and a right side. On the trackpad, all you have to do a right click is to press down on the pad with 2 fingers. And you can see that when I did that, I got the new folder option. I'm going to click away from that for just a moment, and we're going to come over to the Apple menu and go back to System Preferences. And I just want to show you in the mouse section where you can come in. So I've gone to System Preferences. I'm coming down here to the third or fourth row, depending on if you count this top one. And I'm clicking on the mouse, and there's two sections to the mouse settings. There's a More Gestures section and a Point and Click section. This button right here, this box, is unchecked by default. By default means when you buy your Mac, when you buy your mouse, it's that way out of the box. So I'm going to come in and check that box. And what that means is now, just like in this demo video right here, whoops, the person's now clicking on the right side of the mouse and getting that special little menu. The trackpad, I'm clicking on the little grid up here and I'm coming up to the trackpad area. Its box is checked by default. So when you buy a Mac laptop with the trackpad built in, or when you buy one of these Magic trackpads, this box will be checked by default. So you have the right click feature available to you. You just need to know that it requires pressing on the pad with two fingers. So pressing with the two fingers, there's the menu. If I come over to the mouse and click on the right side now, I've got my left finger up in the air. I'm clicking with my middle finger over here on the right. There's my new folder option. So let me go ahead and just close this. I'm going to right click in this area, click New Folder. It appears right where I told it to go, and I'm going to call this Mac Basics Demo. All right, and then I pressed Return. So I have this empty folder that's now on my desktop, and I want to start putting things in it. Now I could drag things into it one by one, so I'm pressing and holding with my trackpad. I could come in and put things into this folder one by one, so I'm dragging and then letting go on top of the folder. But I can also draw what I call a lasso. If you press and hold on your mouse button or your trackpad button and stretch it as you're pressing down. All right, so I'm going to click in this area right over here and drag down on top of these four items. And all four of them are now selected. And so if I pick any one of the four and drag, I am moving all four items. And if I drag that mouse, the tip of that mouse on top of the folder and let go, it actually puts all of those items inside the folder. So I'll do this with the mouse as well. I'll just take a little bit of a row here. So I'm clicking and holding down the button, dragging it across some items, and then I'm going to just randomly pick any one of the items, and they're still all selected. As I move it around and let go, it moves the whole group in unison. When I come on top of the folder, actually if you let's pull it away for a sec. If you hold an item on top of a folder too long, if you just wait for a little bit, it will actually open the folder and show you its contents. So I'm going to go ahead and let go. And so these items are actually inside the folder now. The folder is not organized, so I'm going to switch to sort by name. I'm going to go ahead and close this folder again, and I'm going to come back and get the rest of the items. So I'm just going to start my mouse arrow in the upper right. Now what I'm actually doing with my trackpad now is I'm going to click with my thumb and drag with my finger, and we'll select all of those, and then I'm going to press with my thumb and drag with my finger, and then let go. So I have now almost completely cleaned up my desktop. What I want to do now is remove this folder from the desktop without deleting it. So I'm going to come down to the Finder icon and click. And it opens up a window very similar to what we were talking about earlier. I'm still in the column view. I'm going to switch back to the icon view. And I'm in the Documents folder here on the left. If I click on Desktop, let's change that to icon view as well. it is showing me that one folder that I made that we're seeing over here. This desktop view is just another way of looking at the things that are on the desktop here. If I move this this folder and drag it on top of documents, that folder is going to leave the desktop and it's going to go into the documents folder. So because this folder is in alphabetical order, Mac Basics Demo 1 is actually between iWork 09 and Microsoft User Data. There it is. The folder's off the desktop. I could take it and drag it back to the desktop. And so when I click desktop over here, I see it back over there again. So anyway, you can move things around by dragging items from one area. If I'm in Documents, I want to move Mac Basics Demo back to the desktop. I could drag it on top there. I could open my downloads and I could say, I want this picture to be inside my documents. And so I can move it from downloads to documents. And because downloads is not an iCloud drive and documents is, you just saw a little circle complete there. It just uploaded that document to iCloud. All right. So anyway, in my documents folder, I now have the Mac Basics demo. What I'd like to do is make this one of my favorite things in the sidebar. If I'm going to be using a folder on a frequent basis, it could be helpful for me not to have to click Documents and go hunting for that folder inside the Documents folder. So what I'm going to do is do that little drag move where I'm pressing with my thumb and dragging with my finger. And instead of dropping this folder on top of one of the other items in the favorites area, I'm going to move it between two items until there's a little circle with a line. That means if I let go now, it's going to spread those two things apart and make room for a shortcut to Mac Basics Demo 1. Now the folder is still in the documents. There it is. It's still in my documents folder, but I now have a shortcut to it right here in my favorite section. And so when I want to access something in that folder, I no longer have to click Documents, double click on Mac Basics Demo to get to them. It's just going to be a click right here. This favorite is also going to show up in some very cool places. For instance, let me go ahead and close this. If I'm using Pages, let me click my Pages app. Pages is Apple's word processing program. It's just gotten a recent update, so it's telling me about that. Continue. You'll notice that in the sidebar of the open dialog box for Pages, I've got all those favorites that I had in the Finder, including my Mac Basics Demo 1 folder. So you can actually see some of the darker icons are actually Pages documents, or at least openable with Pages. And so if I was looking for one of these, I wouldn't have had to go far to find it. I wouldn't have had to go to Documents, go find that folder there. Well, actually, where is it? At the very top, because this is apparently organized by the date added. So anyway, I don't have to click that and then open this to go find those documents because it's right here. If I make myself a new document, maybe I didn't want one of those, and I will choose one of their templates. We will go File, Save. Maybe we've made some changes. We want to save our document. Click File, Save. It's asking me what I want to call it and where I want to put it. And the Mac Basics Demo 1 folder is available in the Save dialog box also. So when you're using a folder a lot, you might want to make it one of your favorites here in the left-hand column of your Finder, because it's going to show up in a lot of really great places. All right, I'm going to go ahead and we'll call this Mac Basics as well. Mac Basics test. All right, and save. I'm going to close this document. I'm going to quit Pages, and we're going to come back to the Finder. So there's my Mac Basics test document that's now inside this folder. I think I want to delete that. I'm going to do 2-finger click, move to trash, and that should be in my trash. Here's my trash, and I'm going to actually empty my trash as well. Okay, before we go on, I think I want to, let's say you've populated your favorites area with a lot of things, and you're no longer using a folder that was popular with you for a while, but now you're not using it, it's just taking up space. You can do the 2-finger click or the right click on top of that icon and remove it from the sidebar. That's not going to delete any of the items, it's just going to remove it from the favorites area. It will still be locatable inside your wherever you had it stored. In my case, I had it stored inside Documents. So I'm going to go ahead and open that folder. And what I want to do is actually move these things back onto the desktop. So rather than do the little lasso, I'm just going to go up to the Edit menu and click Select All. They've all become selected, and I'm going to take one of them and throw them overboard and let go. And so it's just moved these items out of this folder that I made, which is actually, the folder itself is still in here, but it's now an empty folder. So I could move that to the trash. And I'm going to close this window. Got these items kind of randomly on my desktop, and I'm going to go back and use the Stacks feature again. So that's a quick overview of the Finder. I will just show you one additional tip about two tips maybe about finding things. There's a little feature called Spotlight up in the status area, a little magnifying glass, that when you click it, it will allow you to search for something. So if I have a document called chairs, let me just type that in. Just type in the word chair. There it goes. It's showing me a few things. I've got a dictionary definition of the word chair, and then I've got some documents on chairs that I've been working on. So anyway, you can find things by doing a search. You can also use Siri. So there's a little icon for Siri up here next to the time. There's also an icon down here, potentially next to the Finder. You may not have yours down there, but you can put one down there. We'll talk about the dock in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and click that. Oh, I forgot that I don't have a microphone hooked up to this computer. All right, so Siri has showed up. I'm going to click it again. Show me Keynote documents I've worked on in the last 12 months.
I found these documents that were modified between November 20th, 2019 and today.
So with one question, I was able to find documents that are on the computer in various folders simply based on what program created them and when I created them. So use your imagination on that. It can be very powerful. You can use times, you can use titles, you can use what program created them. So anyway, remember that you've got Siri at your disposal. You can also program your computer. On some of the newer Macs, you can actually say, "Hey Siri," and it will pop up and listen to you. All right. Okay, let's turn our attention to the dock. This is the colorful strip at the bottom. We've already used the dock several times for opening the Finder. We opened contacts and reminders and text edit and pages from here. The dock, like the sidebar in the Finder, is customizable. So when you bought your Mac, if it was your first Mac, there were some icons that Apple pre-populated in your dock that they felt were important to have. At least they're, the apps that came with your Mac, some of the apps that came with your Mac that they felt you were likely to use. If there are icons in there that you will never use, so for instance, if maybe you use Microsoft Word instead of Pages, you could take the icon and drag it. I'm pressing and holding with my finger and dragging, just like I did with those other icons, but when I drag about an inch or two up into the desktop area, it shows remove, and when I let go, that icon goes away. Now, so you can take things out that you don't use. You can also add things. Now, if I click the Finder and in the sidebar I click Applications, it should be most of your applications. You can also add things from the Applications folder. If I wanted to add pages back, I could go find it. Maybe I'll make sure this is in alphabetical order. Pages, there's Pages, and I'm going to move it back into the dock. There's also an app called LaunchPad. So I've actually got a shortcut to LaunchPad on my dock. But if you don't have it, you can open your Finder, click on Applications, and you can go get it here from the Applications area. And you can drag it down in here. What this does is it gives you a very quick access to your apps. And it actually makes your Mac look a little bit like an iPad or an iPhone. So here's most of my apps, whether they live in the dock or not. And then if you're using the trackpad, you can do a 2-finger slide, and it will take you to any other screens of apps you might have. If you have the mouse, then it's just a 1-finger slide. So just 1 finger will slide between the different screens of apps. If you just got your Mac and you haven't added any apps, they might all fit on one screen. If there are folders full of things in there, like this other, then you just click on the folder and then click away to get out of the folder. So what else did I get rid of? I got rid of iMovie. And so if you're looking for an app and you don't see it, I actually see iMovie down here. If you don't see what you're looking for, you can just begin typing. You can do a search. You don't even have to click up in the search box. You can just begin typing the name of the app you're looking for. So if I type the letter G, it will show me the 4 apps that I've got that have the letter G in it. If I keep typing, it's going to narrow it down. So if I was looking for GarageBand, by the time I've typed in the G and the A, there it is. If I remove something, maybe I'm looking for Chrome, Google Chrome. I'm going to type. It's a browser you can get for your Mac if you want. I typed in a CH and it's showing me the only 2 apps that have CH in it. So you can do a search here in this LaunchPad. All right. I had a lady call me one day and she was panicked because Safari, her web browser, was no longer in the dock. So the dock was the only place that she knew to search for any app. So when it was missing, it's like Safari is gone from my system. So if she had LaunchPad, we could have just clicked on that and typed the letter S, and somewhere in here there's Safari. I can take that and drag it, clicking with my thumb and dragging with my finger, and I'll put it back in the dock area and it'll stay there from now on. So the dock is customizable. There are actually 3 sections of the dock. So the trash can has its own section, and there'll be a little divider line. You can also put important folders in this little section. And again, this is where things that we minimized will go if we do that. But I've actually got a shortcut to my downloads folder and put a shortcut for some images down here. Then there's another section to the left of that, which is recent apps that you've used that don't have a home in the dock. So I've used QuickTime Player and Mac Tracker and Preview in here. They don't have a home in the dock. If I want them to, I can just drag. I can drag an item across the line and it will stay there. But let's just say I click on LaunchPad and I go find Google Chrome or Firefox. When I open that app, if it wasn't a member of my dock, it will show up in the recent section. Let's quit Chrome. So that's a quick look at the dock. You can add things to it. You can take things away from it. You can tell which items are open by the little dot that's underneath them. Let's open a window, and I just want to show you one more thing. So we talked about the yellow ball that minimizes things into the dock area. If you click the green ball on a window, it's going to maximize the window to take over the screen. Now, the very first time you do this, you may have some difficulty getting out of it because it completely takes over the screen. The menu bar goes away, the dock goes away, unless you move your mouse to the edge of the window where you keep your dock. So in my case, that's the bottom edge. When I move my mouse arrow to the top edge, it makes the menu come back. I can click the green ball and minimize and get out of full screen. You can usually also press the escape key to do that. So on your keyboard, in the upper left, there's a little key called the escape key. Upper left, press escape, and when you do that, it's going to get you out. All right, let's close this window. And I want to come up and just briefly mention two things. When there's an update to your software, there are two different places where those updates are going to show up. If it's an update to your operating system, which would be Catalina or Big Sur or Mojave if you haven't updated for a couple of years, then you can actually open software update, which lives inside of system preferences. You can open it directly from the About This Mac box, which will open system preferences and take you right to the software update section. And it will check to see if there's an update for your operating system. Now mine just came out a couple of days ago, so I'm not expecting to find anything there. So again, this was in system preferences, and there's a section of that called software update. That's where any updates for your operating system are going to show up. Everything else, which would be all of the other apps that Pages, Numbers, Keynote, GarageBand, iMovie, which will be 5 apps that came with your Mac that are not a part of the operating system. And then also any other apps that you've gotten from the App Store. I'm going to click the Apple and click App Store. All of those updates are going to be found in the sidebar of the App Store. So if you click that, it will show you. In my case, I've recently, in the last few days, I've updated a handful of different apps, and I did that from the App Store. Obviously, the App Store is also a place where you can go find apps. Just browse through the discovery section. You can look for creative apps. You can look for productivity apps. You can look for games. You can actually type in a search for an app. So if I was looking for Microsoft Word, I could just type in Word up here. And if you get Word from the App Store, the only way to use it is to subscribe to the Microsoft 365. You can also buy it from either Microsoft.com or stores like Charlotte Street Computers, where you pay a one-time fee and you would get to use Word, Excel, and PowerPoint as long as you own that particular package and it still works. So for instance, the 2011 version of Office worked from 2011 to until just recently when Catalina came out. So in that case, it was 9 or 10 years. So anyway, the App Store is a place where you can discover apps for your Mac. Unlike the iPad and the iPhone, you can actually get apps for the Mac in other places than the App Store. So for instance, I downloaded Google Chrome using Safari. Where did I move Safari to? There's Safari. I used Safari to actually go find Google Chrome and download it and then install it on my Mac. We'll talk about downloading apps and installing them in the Safari class. So let's move on here. I just want to mention quickly a command in the Apple menu called force quit. Hopefully this is something that you're going to be able to use sparingly. I only use this when an app is not responding. So just as an example, if I open my Mail app and if I was clicking and nothing was happening, then I could come up to the Apple and click force quit, and I could probably, it would say here in the force quit window is Mail, and then in parentheses it would say not responding. So I could then click on the force quit button and make it quit. So this is one step before turning your computer off. My dad actually called me probably 3 or 4 years ago, and he was actually having trouble with Mail. When he was clicking the Mail icon, nothing happened. And when he tried to shut his computer down, which is also in the Apple menu, so Apple menu shutdown, he tried to click shutdown and it would pop up and say, Mail is keeping your computer from restarting. So he said, what should I do? Pull the plug? I said, let's try this force quit menu first. And so we clicked on Mail. It did say not responding. We forced it to quit, and then we were able to restart the computer. So shutdown and restart are both under the Apple menu. And then last but not least today, I want to talk about Time Machine. So Time Machine, you'll find it in a couple of places. You'll actually find an app for it if you go to the LaunchPad or the application, the LaunchPad, or to the application folder. I'm going to just type in time. There's actually an app called Time Machine. You're probably not going to spend too much time in the app, but I'm going to click away from that and go back to the Apple and click System Preferences. And then down here in the bottom row is a control section for Time Machine. And what this does is it makes snapshots or backups of your computer in case something goes wrong. So for instance, if you have a laptop and you spilled a Coke on the keyboard, that Coke or that tea or that water might fry the little circuits where all of your stuff is kept, and it might no longer be accessible. When we can fix the Mac and make it work, but we can't necessarily get your stuff back. Now you could theoretically be using iCloud to back your things up with iCloud Drive. That can back up your desktop and your documents and your photos if you've elected to use those features. If you're not paying Apple for that, you probably don't have a backup in the cloud, but you can purchase a hard drive. So I'm just going to open Safari and I want to show you some images. Now, back when Apple created Time Machine, every Mac used a hard drive inside of it to store the data. And this was back in 2005. And so a hard drive was a fairly inexpensive way, or the most economical way to give you a fair amount of storage and store your items. These plates would spin at least 5,000 revolutions per minute. The little head here, this little arm, would go back and forth 20 times per second. So moving at very fast speeds to try to access your data and not be too slow at it, although hard drives are notoriously slow. Because they moved so much, these items failed. And back in that time period, hard drive failure was probably our #1 Mac repair. And so they failed often enough to where Apple wanted a consistent way for users to be able to back up their Mac. And so I'm going to open a new tab in Safari. And so they created Time Machine, and what you do with Time Machine is you would just take an external drive. Here's a picture of a Mac with an external drive plugged into it. You'd plug it into one of the ports, and then you would go to Time Machine in the system preferences, and you would, first of all, check the box that says backup automatically, and then you would select the disk that you just plugged in. And it would then start making those hourly backups. So the first backup would take a while because it's backing up everything in your computer. And then after that, it just backs up what's changed in the last hour. So more recently, just close, let me get out of this for a second, open another new tab. Probably starting in about 2008, Apple started putting solid state drives in some of their Macs. Now the complete lineup has moved to solid state storage. If you bought an iMac in the last year or two, you might still have a hard drive. But all the Apple laptops have gone to solid state. The Mac Mini has now moved to solid state. Newer iMacs are all in solid state. The Mac Pro has been on solid state for 7 years. So anyway, in that case, our data is stored on these chips. No moving parts, which is why they call it solid state. These are much faster than hard drives, and they're more reliable. However, when they fail, the recovery rate on hard drives, I would say easily over 50% of the time we can recover data off of these. Now, sometimes it can be time consuming and expensive, but at least we can get it. When solid state drives fail, the chances of us getting the data are not good. So so even though you have the more reliable technology, you still want to have your stuff backed up to somewhere besides your computer. So either iCloud or some cloud storage like Dropbox or Microsoft's OneDrive or Google Drive or something, or you can buy an inexpensive external hard disk and you can plug it into your computer, check the box, and your computer will start backing up. I've actually checked this little box down at the bottom of the Time Machine preferences that's making an icon for Time Machine show up in my status area up here at the top. So I can see my last backup was today at 10:10, and if I wanted to make another backup, I could click that right here. All right, that was the last thing I want to show you today. We've been at it for quite a while. So next week at this time, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually just ask for the link, and we'll send you the link to Mac Basics 2, and we'll show you some more things that we think you need to know about your Mac. We also have a class on the Photos app, which is the app for managing your photos. We have a class on Safari, which will be an app you'll be using to browse the web, to take full advantage of that. We have a class on Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, which we call, this package is called iWork. So there's a class called iWork Essentials. And there's also a class called iMovie, which is a great little program for editing videos. And then we also have 2 classes on iCloud. So iCloud, we'll explain all the things that does. You've probably seen that on your phone, your iPad, if you're new to the Mac and don't have those things. Anyway, this is a great product that Apple has for backing up and synchronizing your stuff. So you've got an iCloud class and an iCloud Photos class. Keep an eye out for those. And So anyway, I think we're going to call it a day, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Have a good day.